Hey guys, Mahal everyone, 40 the Broadway Saiyan here. Welcome back to my YouTube channel, bringing you guys another video on Dissidia Final Fantasy Opera Omnia. In this video, we're going to be covering the next upcoming Lost Chapters, hitting global soon, which is going to be refeaturing ALISAIE. So if you guys didn't get a chance to unlock ALISAIE when she first came out during her character event, this is going to be your chance now to unlock her permanently with her Lost Chapters. With this Lost Chapters, ALISAIE will be receiving her level 70 awakening, and she will also be receiving a rework, which is very, very cool. Now, with this current Lost Chapters, we're also going to be seeing synergy alongside ALISAIE with Papalimo and Terra. We're going to be seeing the return of that Magic Halo boss, and we're also going to be seeing the debut of ALISAIE's EX weapon. Now, something that I do want to point out in this video early is a lot of players are going to be asking, are we going to be seeing Cosmos difficulties for these Lost Chapters? For this particular one, you will not. We actually don't see Cosmos and Chaos difficulties for Lost Chapters until Fang's Lost Chapter. So Lost Chapters from ALISAIE's all the way up until before Fang are actually only going to go up to EX. So the hardest difficulty for this one is only going to be EX, which is kind of nice. It kind of gives us a breather or kind of like a break from all of these Cosmos stages that are already live on Global. So without further ado, we're going to go ahead and start off by talking about ALISAIE's level 70 and her rework. So her level 70 is going to be giving her those new passives that go all the way up to Crystal level 70. The first one is going to be at her C level 65, the Attack Advance, which is going to be her third ability. This grants her a 10% attack and max brave up, actually 10% attack up and a 10% max brave overflow to herself for 2 turns. So she has that ability now to increase her damage dealing, prowess, as well as being able to deal more HP damage with that overflow. Now at 68, she gets the Aura, which is Radiance of Bravery and Power, giving her a 20% initial brave and attack increase to herself. And then at C level 70, we see an improvement given to Attack Advance, which is Attack Advance Extend, increasing the attack up to 15% and the max brave overflow to 20%. Now, if you decide to use the Bloomstone on ALISAIE, it's going to be giving her an additional usage to Attack Advance and actually extending the duration for the effects of that for 4 turns. So that's pretty cool right there. Now we're going to go ahead and talk about what she gets for her rework. The first thing is going to be coming from her Crystal passive level 54. It used to be called Enchanted Redoublement Power Up, but now it's just simply called Buff Attack. So it used to give a 20% brave damage increase to Enchanted Redoublement, but now all it does is it's going to give you a 40% attack increase to ALISAIE while she is buffed. So overall, that is an improvement. So then she just gets a better attack increase rather than just increasing the brave damage to an ability. Now we're going to actually take a look at her abilities and what her rework did for her. So for Ver Arrow and Ver Stone, she gets 2 additional usages. It also grants ALISAIE the 30% max Brave Up buff for 8 turns at the start of the quest. So she starts off with that. Her Ver Arrow is going to be in getting the Brave hits increased to 3. It's also going to be increasing the potency of this ability to 210%, allowing it now to deal HP damage, not just Brave hits, and also lowering the action delay. On Ver Stone, she's going to be getting the Brave hits increased to 3. Brave damage potency is going to be increased to 210%, and check this out, Ver Stone does not add to the turn count, obviously except for summon and friend support, but that's pretty cool that the second portion of her specific rotations, because this character does have rotations, the second portion of that does not add to the turn count anymore, which is very, very good, very useful. Now let's take a look at her Ver Thunder and Ver Fire. So the ability is going to get 2 additional usages. Ver Thunder will get the Brave hits increased to 3. The potency is going to be increased to 210%. It's going to be following up with HP damage now and lowering action delay. Ver Fire, on the other hand, will have its Brave hits increased to 3. It's also going to receive that potency increase to 210% and also gets the same treatment as Ver Stone, not adding to the turn count. Now we're going to go ahead and take a look at her other abilities, and these are going to be the abilities that come from her rotation that's only accessible after you meet a certain requirement. So Ver Holy and Ver Flare come respectively from the Ver Arrow and the Ver Thunder rotations, and this is only accessible after you use her Enchanted Redoublement. So both of these abilities will have their Brave hits increased to 4. They're also going to get a potency increase up to 330%, and they will both have an overflow up to 120% of max Brave and a lowered action delay. Now Enchanted Redoublement is going to be her HP attack command, and remember, the way you get access to this is is she's going to have two different gauges, a white mana gauge and a black mana gauge. You want to make sure that they're at 5 or greater for both of them to have access to this ability. But anyways, what it is going to be getting on the rework is a potency increase to 450%. It's also going to be getting an overflow up to 150% of max brave. It's also going to be extending that max brave up buff to herself by 2 turns. And instead of depleting 5 of both of the white and black mana gauges, it's now only going to deplete 4, which is very, very good. Now, the last thing we're going to take a look at before I give my final verdict on this character, whether or not she is for fun or for glory, is going to be her EX ability. Now, remember, you do need her EX weapon for this, but the EX ability is going to be called Jolt 2 combo. It's going to be a 3-hit non-elemental magic single target brave plus single target HP attack with a 260% brave damage potency. It's also going to be increasing the white and black mana gauges by 2, extending the active dual cast frame buff to herself to 2 turns. And remember, what dual cast does is the next ability that she uses is going to be free. So that's very, very powerful that it extends it to 2 turns, because essentially that's 2 free ability usage if you have that buff already active when you use this. There's also going to be no action delay, and also does not increase the turn count for this EX ability. And then if you happen to have the EX weapon 2 out of 3 limit break, ALISAIE will also be getting the duelist framed buff after she uses her EX ability, which increases her attack by 20% and speed by 40%. Overall, what are my thoughts on this character? So one of the things that I like about her rework, first of all, is that the first portions of her rotations, so for Ver Arrow and her Ver Thunder, they no longer just deal brave damage. They actually deal HP damage afterwards. So this overall enhances her consistency and her efficiency being a damage dealing unit, because one of her issues is because she has this MMO style kind of a rotation with her abilities, right? She has to build up. She has to set up first, and initially using both either Ver Arrow or Ver Thunder, you're just dealing brave damage. It just wasn't consistent compared to what we already had, or some of the other casts where they could just deal brave damage and then HP damage afterwards. So I like that. Another thing that I really like about her rework is that no added turn count. So now that we're in the Cosmos era, we've been seeing some pretty insane turn requirements for some of these Cosmos stages. Like the last one that we had that had a really, really tight turn count was the Fran event. That one was pretty tough as far as the turn count goes. So having ALISAIE, imagine if you had somebody like ALISAIE and Vayne in your party. Since they don't add to the turn count with their specific abilities, this is going to be pretty useful. I do like how she has that. And then lastly, I do like how her Enchanted Redoublement and also her Ver Flare and Ver Holy both get damage increases. They also now get Overflow, and it also allows her to deplete her mana gauges less, because remember, the whole thing about ALISAIE's kit is you're trying to build up her mana gauges beyond 5 for each of the colors. So then that way you have access to Enchanted Redoublement, which is undoubtedly her hardest hitting ability. And then to top it off, that EX ability, if you happen to pull for it, and if you decide to build up ALISAIE, I would highly recommend to pull for it, because that dual cast buff extension to 2 turns is extremely powerful, because she will have 2 free ability usages. So if you plan her rotation correctly, you get that dual cast buff up, you know, from her other abilities, and then you use Jolt combo. That's 2 turns that you have for using her abilities without having to use any ability points. So that's very cool. So overall, what are my thoughts on this character? She's good. I do like how she's more efficient. I do like how she can minimize the amount of turns that you take, which is going to be very, very useful for the Cosmos era. Now, is this character for fun or for glory? It depends. She is pretty powerful. Her damage modifiers, even with the upgrades of her rework, are they're still on the slightly lower end. They're better, but I do like I said, how she's more efficient. She's definitely gonna want that EX, because without the EX, yeah, you're gonna have some of those no adding to the turn count, but the free ability usages from dual cast, especially extending it to 2 turns, it just makes sense for this character to have it. So I would say for me, she's kind of in between, because the future for ALISAIE right now, currently on JP, it's not so great. She has shenanigans. She can help you with the turn count. She can play with those elements, which is pretty handy. So you could pair up with somebody like Shantoto, but she doesn't particularly last too long. She doesn't, when we get into the Chaos era, her usability kind of falls just because even though she gets a really nice rework, her damage is still kind of, it's questionable, especially because she does still have that rotation, which can be pretty gnarly to manage, especially if you just decide to go with somebody more straightforward who can actually do something that ALISAIE does, but even better. But overall, I'd say she leans more to the side of for fun, but because of her shenanigans, she could be a potential for glory character. Now, if you decide to build up ALISAIE for artifacts with her level 70 and her rework, I would definitely just go with attack plus 108 and max brave plus 330. I like the static numbers because that way she has access to it all the time. There's no like conditional requirements. Acceleration boost is actually pretty good. What it does is she gets a boost to her attack and max brave for 3 turns after she uses either Ver Arrow or Ver Thunder. But the fact that it only lasts for 3 turns, honestly, I'd rather just have the attack 108 and max brave plus 330. That's just my personal opinion on it, but if you like acceleration boost and you value it over the other two, then by all means go ahead and give her acceleration boost, especially because ALISAIE has this functionality where every time she's constantly using her abilities, she has a higher chance to act first, so she has that low action delay built in within her kit. All right, so now after we know all of this, I do want to talk about the banner just a little bit before we go over and talk about the boss. So the banner is going to be featuring ALISAIE's EX weapon. It's also going to be re-featuring the 15 and 35 CP for Terra and Papalymo. Unfortunately, Terra and Papalymo do not get level 70 Awakening just yet. Terra gets hers soon because we know that Awakening Batch 2 was already announced during the Square Enix stream. Papalymo right now is a decent character, but right now his usability is kind of limited just because of his damage output currently compared with some of the cast that just recently got their reworks. And then Terra, if you want to pull for Terra, you should probably just wait for her Awakening, for the Awakening Batch Part 2. ALISAIE's EX weapon is very important for her. However, with characters coming out that are going to be more viable, such as like Porum, who could help your party survive, there's a lot of hype behind Pain because she has a really powerful stacking frame debuff as well as a stacking frame buff, which is pretty powerful. And then we have characters that a lot of people are looking forward to in the future, such as like Charlotta, we have Ultimisia, and we even have Noctis, who's going to be coming out soon with his Lost Chapters and his incredible rework. I would say it's 50-50 for ALISAIE. For me personally, I'm probably just going to toss tickets. I'm not going to be dumping too many resources into her because I think she's honestly quite a pass. But again, if this character is one of your favorites, if she is your waifu, then it's always about favorites over the meta, because the enjoyment of the game, you know, for me personally, and for a lot of you folks that I know have been watching my channel for DFFOO, enjoyability for this game is definitely more prioritized over the meta and things like that, because we all just want to have fun. So for me, it's a pass. Now, if you decide to pass on this banner, ALISAIE's EX weapon is another rare EX weapon, kind of like Laguna's EX weapon, where it still has yet to repeat. I don't believe it appears in the EX token shop during one of the releases for the EX token shop. I could be wrong on that. You guys can let me know in the comment section below, but it's kind of a rare EX weapon. It still doesn't have an EX plus, so it's cool to have because it's kind of like, hey, I have this rare EX weapon. But if we get more details later on about its EX plus, that could change the whole you know, the whole opinions and thoughts about this EX weapon. So it doesn't repeat, so it's currently only going to be appearing on her Lost Chapters banner. All right, the last thing we're going to talk about is going to be the Magic Halo boss. So if you guys remember, this boss is it's a ghost type enemy, kind of like that Reaper ghost type enemy, and it's wearing like a hat. It looks a little silly to me in my opinion, but it has no weaknesses. It is resistant to melee and ranged attacks, so sorry Vayne, you could cheese it, but you're not going to do much damage to it. Chase value 40. The abilities you want to look out for, so it switches between using Black Veil and White Veil. Now both of these veils will be changing its elemental weakness and resistances, so this is probably why ALISAIE is the highlighted character, because she likes to mess around with elements. Both veils will heal its brave. It's also going to be removing non-frame debuffs, and also it grants it a shield that further reduces brave damage. Now the way you could dispel the veil or the shield is by breaking Magic Halo. Once you do that, he loses the benefits of his veils. Now Black Veil is resistant to Fire, Ice, Thunder, and Dark, but weak to Earth, Wind, Water, and Holy. And then White Veil is resistant to Earth, Wind, Water, and Holy, but weak to Fire, Ice, Thunder, and Dark. Like I said again in the beginning, The fight's going to only go all the way up to the EX difficulty, so it shouldn't be too hard for most people that have been playing DFFOO, especially since the beginning. For newer players, this will be pretty difficult, and the reason why is because of the mechanics of the boss. Boss is a little bit tricky, so you just want to keep that in mind. But if you decide to go in the elemental party, you can kind of play around with that. So there's some other good characters that we already have that can mess around with the elements for this fight. Just remember, the boss is resistant to physical attacks, both melee and range, so you want to take a magic-based party to capitalize on the most amount of damage that you could deal. So we're actually going to jump into it right now. As you can see, there's ALISAIE right there. There's my ALISAIE. She has her EX weapon. And I'm also going to be taking Papalymo and Terra. Now, Papalymo and Terra do have their reworks already active, as well as Papalymo having an EX Plus weapon, and also having level 70, so you'll get to see that in action here. So we're just going to go ahead and jump right into this no friend unit. Again, this is just the EX difficulty for this visual showcase, so you guys have an idea of what's going to be happening for this upcoming event. Alright, so ALISAIE, we're going to go right into her Verarrow, and I usually like going into that because the white mana gauge actually gives her bravery regen, whereas the black mana gauge increases her attack, but I like having the regen first. I like giving her access to that first. Okay, so now we're going to go ahead and use Ver Thunder so we can build up her black mana gauge. So now we have 3 points of both white and black. So remember, we need 5 or more to have access to Enchanted Redoublement. Okay, so now we have access to both, Ver Fire and Ver Stone. So we're going to go with Ver Stone. And as you can see, it doesn't take up a turn count, which is pretty cool. And also, every time you use, I believe it's Ver Stone and Ver Fire, you get that dual cast. As you can see right there, ALISAIE has that dual cast. So the next ability that I use, it's going to be for free, which is pretty cool. Okay, so we're gonna go ahead and use Terra's Meteor, and this is Rework Terra, which is going to be cool to see in action. And she does get a, you see that icon above her? It's the Magnesite icon, which is pretty nice. So she has that now. All right, so now we have access to ALISAIE's. Oh, we have Jolt combo. So what I'm gonna do is actually use that so we could benefit from dual cast for 2 turns rather than just 1. And remember, no action delay and no turn count for that one, so that's pretty cool. So ALISAIE gets to take another turn. Alright, so we have access to Enchanted Redoublement, which we're going to go ahead and use that. I do kind of find it interesting that her special HP attack command has a higher potency than her EX. I guess her EX is more so about improving her mana gauges and also more about the shenanigans rather than just the damage. Okay, so we're almost there. Alright, so here's the boss fight. So again, we just gotta pay attention to the veils. So just to make sure that we're getting our elements correctly here. Alright, so I'm going to apply Terra's Meltdown so we can get that debuff, that defense down debuff. And cool, we have access to Papalymo's EX, so let's see it in action. And we have Jolt combo, but I want the dual cast up first. There we go. So what I might try to do here is just maybe burst the boss down, or actually no, wait. I'll let the boss put up its veil, or do at least take an action, so then that way you guys get to see it firsthand in action. Okay. So put up a veil. Let's double check to see which one it is. Okay, so it's, I believe that's White Veil. Okay, cool. So he's weak to both of Papalymo's elements, which is useful. All right, so we're gonna pop summon now. All right, so the veil is broken. He loses that. Okay. Oh, nice. We have Jolt combo again. So as you can see our turn count's at 19. So ALISAIE is doing all that, which is really nice that she has that the ability to keep the turn count low now because of the no added turn count to her abilities. And also the fact that she could take consecutive turns if you can constantly use her abilities. That's very useful. And we have access to it again. So I forgot to mention that her EX ability charges quite quickly, which is nice. It's nice. And we have Jolt combo again. Oh, but we didn't have dual cast at that time, so maybe I shouldn't have used it there. It's all good. At least we didn't add to the turn count. So overall, ALISAIE is pretty fun to use. She's really fun to use. Even though there were some people that were kind of iffy about her whole MMO kind of a rotation because she does come from Final Fantasy XIV, which is an MMO. I think it's cool that they have a character like that in Dissidia Opera Omnia. Different kind of a playstyle, definitely unique. She's the only character that kind of does this. All right, and who best to finish the fight off than ALISAIE? Or not. Oh, okay, there we go. All right, we'll just use Enchanted Redoublement. Awesome, cool. So that is going to be the visual showcase for the Magic Halo fight. Again, just watch out for those veils. Best thing to do if you let's say miss which veil it used, just hold click it and you can kind of see which elements or resistances it has up, so then that way you know how to prepare for that. But overall, it shouldn't be too much of a hard fight. Might be harder for some newer players, but because it's EX difficulty, shouldn't be too bad. Alright guys, well thank you for watching this video. Hopefully it helps you guys out to prepare for the upcoming ALISAIE Lost Chapters hitting Global DFFOO. This is 40 the Broadway Saiyan. Stay tuned for the next video, and mahal everyone.